Have you ever wondered why you keep attracting the same kind of person, different faces, but the same story, the same heartbreak? Inspired by the timeless insights of Carl Jung, this poetic narration explores the hidden patterns of the psyche, why we repeat emotional cycles, what our attraction truly reveals about our inner world, and how healing transforms the kind of love we call in. This is not just a reflection on relationships, it's an awakening into self-awareness, shadow integration, and feminine empowerment. Listen closely. Somewhere between the pain and the realization, you may finally understand, you were never cursed to repeat the pattern, you were destined to break it. Why we keep falling for the same type, Carl Jung. You ever wonder why some women, no matter how self-aware, keep finding themselves in the same kind of relationship, the same pain wearing a different face? It's as if destiny itself keeps leading them back to the same storm, disguised as a different sky. But it isn't destiny, it's the unconscious, that invisible architect beneath the surface of the soul. Jung would say, what we do not make conscious, controls us. And so, the pattern repeats. Each woman carries within her an invisible magnet, shaped by her earliest wounds, her forgotten dreams, and her unhealed shadow. That magnet doesn't attract what she wants, it attracts what she needs to see. It brings forth the man who mirrors the unloved parts of herself, the parts she has exiled to survive. And so, she calls it chemistry, not knowing it's really recognition. The soul recognizes the familiar, even when the familiar once broke her. The universe, or perhaps the psyche, is not cruel. It is precise. It sends again and again the same lesson dressed in new skin, until she no longer confuses longing with love, attachment with safety, intensity with intimacy. Every repeated heartbreak whispers the same question, will you awaken this time? In the beginning, it feels magnetic, as if two souls have met before. That spark, that tension, that irresistible pull, it is the unconscious announcing, here lies your work. She thinks it's love, but it's projection. She sees not the man, but the mirror, her father's absence, her mother's ache, the echo of a childhood promise, if I can make you love me, I will finally be enough. And so, she enters another labyrinth, chasing redemption disguised as romance. The human psyche is cyclical, not linear. It doesn't move forward until the lesson is integrated. The woman believes she's making different choices, a new man, a new story, yet beneath it all, the same archetype waits, the unavailable lover, the savior, the narcissist, the dreamer. Jung called it the animus, the inner masculine within every woman. When wounded, it takes the shape of men who challenge her worth, who reflect her disowned power. When healed, it becomes her inner strength, her clarity, her voice. To understand why we fall for the same type is to understand that we are not choosing people, we are choosing patterns. We are unconsciously drawn to what feels like home, even when home was never safe. The mind calls it attraction, the soul calls it repetition compulsion, an ancient psychological rhythm that says, perhaps this time, I can rewrite the story. But until she brings that story to consciousness, it will write her instead. Most women do not fall for men. They fall for what those men awaken in them, the high, the chaos, the hope of being seen. The wounded feminine seeks validation from the masculine, while the integrated feminine seeks reflection. There is a difference between being chosen and being recognized. The first depends on his gaze, the second arises from her own light. And yet, it's easy to forget. Because when he looks at her like she's the only one in the room, when he touches her like she's air and fire at once, the body remembers something ancient, a kind of hunger that feels holy. But desire born from emptiness can never satisfy, it only deepens the void. The dance between them becomes one of shadow and flame. She seeks love, he mirrors her lack, she gives endlessly, he takes without end. And still, she stays, thinking love must endure pain. But love does not demand self-abandonment. It demands awakening. To truly love is to face oneself, to meet the shadow without running. Every heartbreak is the psyche's invitation to wholeness, every ending a mirror of inner transformation. The man she cannot forget is often the messenger of her own unconscious. He was never the destination, only the catalyst. When she begins to see this, something shifts. The patterns lose their power. The magnetic pull weakens. She no longer confuses comfort with chemistry or silence with peace. She starts to see the difference between soul connection and trauma bonding. The projection fades, and in its place, clarity arises, the quiet knowing that what she sought in him was never missing from her. The same type no longer seduces her, because she no longer needs the lesson hidden in his eyes. Her attraction becomes aligned with her healing. She begins to crave what nourishes her, not what wounds her. This is how the unconscious becomes conscious. This is how the cycle ends. The woman who once begged for love now stands still in her own light, no longer waiting to be chosen, because she has already chosen herself. And yet, the moment she begins to awaken, the universe will test her resolve. The same energy may return, perhaps in a different form, a different name, a softer smile. The test is not there to punish her, it's there to reveal her growth. She will feel the familiar pull, that intoxicating familiarity that whispers, maybe this one is different. But this time, something deep within her pauses. It no longer feels like destiny, it feels like déjà vu. The same pattern, the same vibration, the same lesson wrapped in charm. And now, she has a choice. The unconscious once ruled her silently, but now consciousness has entered the room. Jung said that until the unconscious is made conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Awareness is what turns fate into freedom. She begins to see that every attraction is an energy exchange, a mirror showing her where she stands within herself. If she meets a man who treats her as optional, it is a reflection of where she still undervalues her own presence. If she attracts chaos, it's where her inner world still trembles. If she feels invisible, it's where she's still hiding from her own power. To love consciously is to realize that relationships are not random, they are sacred assignments. The partners we meet are chapters of our evolution, and each one carries a piece of our unfinished story. When she keeps falling for the same type, it's because her soul has chosen repetition as a form of awakening. The psyche uses attraction like a compass pointing to the wound that needs tending. Until she listens, the compass will spin endlessly, drawing her back to the same emotional terrain. There is a moment, quiet but seismic, when she finally sees the pattern clearly. It's not about the men anymore. It never was. It's about her relationship with herself. The unavailable man mirrors the part of her that denies her own needs. The controlling man reflects the part of her that fears her own freedom. The emotionally distant man embodies the part of her that still hides her heart behind walls of strength. Each one plays a role in her inner theater, acting out what she hasn't yet healed. This realization does not come with bitterness, it comes with clarity. The mind no longer seeks villains. It understands that everyone we meet is both teacher and mirror. Even the ones who broke her heart were serving a purpose, to expose what she believed about love, about worth, about pain. Without them, she might never have turned inward. Without them, she might never have found the courage to meet herself. To do shadow work is to stop running from what hurts. It's to sit with the ghosts of old love stories and listen to what they're still trying to say. Beneath every failed relationship lies a buried belief: I am not enough, I must earn love, I am too much. The shadow does not seek punishment, it seeks integration. When she stops resisting her darkness and starts holding it with compassion, she reclaims the power that was always hers. She begins to understand that love is not supposed to feel like survival. True love is not found in chasing someone's approval, but in embracing one's own wholeness. The healed feminine energy does not beg to be seen, she radiates presence. Her worth is not a negotiation. It simply is. When she meets someone new, she no longer asks, will he choose me? But does this connection honor who I am becoming? The focus shifts from external validation to internal resonance. She no longer needs a man to complete her story, she seeks a partner who speaks the same language of growth. Still, there will be moments when the old patterns whisper again. Healing is not forgetting, it's remembering without being possessed. The woman who once mistook intensity for love now recognizes peace as the true form of passion. The stillness within her becomes more intoxicating than any fleeting spark. She realizes that the greatest chemistry is alignment, two souls who meet without masks, without games, without the need to fill each other's emptiness. That is the paradox of awakening. The more whole she becomes, the fewer people can enter her space. Because love, for the awakened woman, is no longer about escape, it's about expansion. The same patterns that once broke her now serve as proof of how far she has come. The soul that once cried out for validation now rests in quiet sovereignty. She no longer falls for potential, she honors reality. She doesn't chase red flags disguised as passion, she chooses peace disguised as boredom, and realizes it's actually stability. The familiar chaos no longer calls her name, because she has seen behind the veil. The deeper she travels into her own psyche, the more she sees that attraction was never random, it was ritual. Every encounter, every heartbreak, every spark that once felt like destiny was an initiation. The unconscious leads her through these sacred thresholds, not to punish, but to purify. Jung understood this well. The psyche does not evolve through comfort, it evolves through confrontation. Each repeated pattern is an echo of unfinished business between her conscious self and her shadow. The shadow isn't evil. It's simply the forgotten part of her, a collection of unlived emotions, denied desires, and silenced truths. It waits patiently, hidden behind her smile and her composure. And so long as she refuses to meet it, it finds its way into her lovers. The man who refuses to commit mirrors her own hesitation to commit to her authentic self. The one who criticizes her reflects her inner voice that never stops judging. The emotionally distant one reenacts the emotional distance she once had to create to survive. Every time she falls for the same type, the universe whispers, "Are you ready to meet yourself yet?" Most people believe healing is about finding better people. But the true work is to become the person who no longer attracts what wounds her. When she learns to honor her boundaries, the unavailable man disappears. When she speaks her truth, the manipulative man loses interest. When she finally loves herself without condition, the love that once hurt her becomes impossible to sustain. This is the alchemy of self-awareness. The same energy that once drew her into cycles of pain now becomes the fire that transforms her. The passion that once burned her alive becomes the light that guides her home. She learns that the opposite of love is not hate, it's self-forgetfulness. Every time she betrayed herself for someone else's approval, she reinforced the illusion that love requires sacrifice. But now, she understands, real love begins where self-abandonment ends. There's a kind of mourning that comes with awakening. She grieves the versions of herself who didn't know better, the girl who believed love must be earned, the woman who waited for someone to see her worth, the lover who mistook suffering for depth. These were not mistakes, they were stages of evolution. She can finally bless them, thank them, and let them go. In silence, she feels the shift, the need to be understood fades, replaced by the peace of self-acceptance. The desire to prove her worth dissolves, replaced by a quiet knowing that her worth was never lost. She no longer fears being alone, because solitude now feels like sanctuary. Her energy changes, and as it does, the world around her rearranges. New kinds of people begin to appear. Not because the universe has changed, but because she has. Those who thrive on chaos can no longer find entry into her calm. Those who manipulate with confusion lose power in her clarity. Those who seek to control are disarmed by her groundedness. She has become a mirror too, but one that reflects truth, not illusion. And when love returns, and it will not come to fill a void. It will come as resonance. Two sovereign beings meeting not from hunger, but from wholeness. The energy between them will feel different, not frantic, not addictive, but steady. The spark will no longer be a wound vibrating, it will be two souls recognizing the sacred in each other without needing to possess it. That is the essence of individuation, the Jungian journey toward wholeness. It's not about perfection. It's about integration. She no longer hides her sensitivity, she owns it. She no longer shames her desire, she honors it. She no longer fears her power, she wields it with grace. She is both soft and strong, intuitive and logical, light and shadow. In her, the masculine and feminine energies no longer fight, they dance. She embodies both the nurturing and the decisive, the receptive and the assertive. The wounded animal within her has matured into wisdom. She becomes the archetype of the conscious woman, no longer driven by the past, but guided by awareness. This is where true empowerment begins, not in dominance or detachment, but in integration. She no longer needs to prove her strength by rejecting love, nor her softness by losing herself in it. She understands now, strength and vulnerability are not opposites, they are twin flames within the same soul. And so, when she looks back on the men who once mirrored her pain, she feels no anger, only gratitude. They were the teachers her soul called forth, each one playing their part in her becoming. The cycle ends not because she found the perfect partner, but because she became whole enough not to need the pattern anymore. She smiles, not with triumph, but with peace. There comes a moment when her reflection no longer frightens her. She can finally meet her own eyes and see not the fragments of who she used to be, but the integration of every version that came before. The woman who begged, the woman who fought, the woman who broke, the woman who rose, all coexist within her now. There is no longer war between who she was and who she is becoming. That quiet harmony is what Jung called individuation, the merging of the conscious and the unconscious, the union of light and shadow, the sacred marriage of her inner masculine and feminine. Once upon a time, she searched for that union in another person. Now, she embodies it. The man she used to chase was merely a reflection of the divine masculine within her, the energy of direction, focus, protection, and truth. The woman she disowned was the divine feminine, intuition, softness, creation, and flow. Their reunion inside her is not dramatic, it is subtle, yet seismic. The restless hunger for completion fades, and what remains is a sense of internal fullness that cannot be taken away. She begins to move differently through the world. Her presence no longer seeks to be understood, it simply is. People sense it before she speaks, the grounded calm of someone who no longer negotiates her worth, who no longer performs for affection. There's a sacred stillness in her eyes now, the kind that comes from walking through her own darkness and returning with the light. Love, for her, no longer carries the scent of anxiety. It feels like peace. It feels like ease. It feels like something that expands her rather than consumes her. The same traits she once ignored in healthy men, stability, patience, kindness, now feel magnetic. The ones who once thrilled her through chaos no longer have a hold. It isn't that they changed. It's that her nervous system finally learned what safety feels like. Because healing is not just psychological, it's somatic. The body must learn what the mind already knows. The body that once mistook tension for love now recognizes calm as connection. The body that once tightened in fear now softens in presence. The heart that once leapt toward danger now opens only to those who meet her depth with gentleness. This is not avoidance, it's discernment. She used to think love was a story of intensity, of highs and lows, of fireworks and firestorms. But now she knows, real love is a steady flame that doesn't need to burn to be bright. The most powerful energy is not in the chase, but in the quiet alignment of two souls who have already met themselves. Her boundaries, once born of fear, are now acts of devotion. She doesn't set them to control others, but to honor her peace. She doesn't explain them, she embodies them. When someone cannot meet her energy, she doesn't shrink or beg, she blesses and releases. There is a softness in her letting go now, because she finally understands that detachment is not the absence of love, it is the presence of trust, trust in herself, trust in the timing of the universe, trust that what is meant for her will always recognize her vibration. The archetype of the wounded lover has evolved into the archetype of the sovereign woman. She no longer measures her worth through how much she is loved, but through how deeply she loves herself. She doesn't fear solitude, she thrives in it. She doesn't chase validation, she embodies value. And the world responds differently to her now. Opportunities that once passed her by arrive effortlessly. People who resonate with her frequency appear as if drawn by gravity. Her outer reality begins to mirror her inner state, because energy doesn't lie. What she embodies, she attracts, not through striving, but through alignment. She finally sees that all along, love was never about finding someone to complete her, it was about remembering that she was never incomplete. Every heartbreak, every lesson, every mirror, all of it was preparing her to stand where she stands now, unshaken, luminous, whole. And in that stillness, she realizes the truth Jung hinted at, that the goal of life is not perfection, but wholeness. To embrace one's humanity fully. To love one's contradictions. To see beauty even in the broken. To live from a center that no longer depends on who stays or who leaves. So when love returns, and it always will, she will meet it differently. Not as a rescuer, not as a seeker, but as an equal. She will not fall this time, she will stand. Because the woman who has met her shadow has nothing left to fear in the light. The patterns have dissolved. The mirror is clear. The story has ended, but the soul continues, freer than ever before. The woman who understands her worth does not chase, she chooses.